Can't you do that later? I'm missing valuable shopping time.
Mother, please, I'll be out in a second.
I don't know why you bother. You've always retained your fluids.
On the rocks. Hello?
I seen it, man. I seen this weird looking dude run right out and stomp on his honky lady's feet. Stop with this chopping up the day.
Pretty little angel eyes.
You dance lewdly for the boys at lunch period?
Quarter, I will.
Stop that dancing.
Don't be upset, Mrs. Fishpaw. Puberty brings on strange behavior in adolescence.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Scott. Oh my gosh.
This song.
You love it.
I love it.
I love it. We love Tab. Everybody out there listening, my name's Pete.
And I'm Scott, and these are the movies that made us gay.
Yes.
Well, we are back talking about John Waters. It's been a while. Like, I think our last John Waters episode was probably Serial Mom.
Sure.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
But we have our polyester queen with us, Drew Droege.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Climb up the stairs and meet Drew Droege. Hi. I'm so excited to talk about this movie. I love it so much.
Polyester, written and directed by John Waters, released May 29th, 1981. Summer programming. The weekend before Memorial Day.
Just in time for school to be out and all the kids can run to Polyester.
Oh, my goodness.
To the Charles Art Theater and watch, all the, raincoat theater.
I feel like we've deliberately held the big John Waters movies for sometime later in the podcast, but this I think is just sort of the big trifecta of the big ones. So we haven't done Female Trouble or Pink Flamingos yet.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is like, I think we've done Hairspray.
We're starting with the family-friendly ones.
We've started with the family-friendly ones, if you
Yeah.
can call Serial Mom family-friendly. But
we started with commercial John Waters.
Right.
Now
we
we're
made
going
it to
back
Hairspray.
into-
Or we made it to Polyester.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like, and it's just the world's biggest John Waters fan, and I always go when everyone's like, "What's your favorite?" And I go between the three. I think that there's a trifecta of his best films.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, they are Female Trouble, Serial Mom, and Polyester. I think these three are his greatest. Now, Pink Flamingos and Hairspray are arguably his most important and groundbreaking movies, and they're both great. But what I would put on and watch, I don't put on Pink Flamingos a lot and watch it, but Female Trouble I watch on a loop. Same with Hairspray. It is an incredible movie, but I much prefer Polyester to I think this Polyester is one of his people that know it love it, but it's arguably one of his more underrated movies. I don't know that people really know what's going on with it, and it was his first mainstream movie.
Right.
Yeah, an early New Line movie.
It was
probably
one of New Line's
one
first,
of the first,
one of their first
New Line
three.
movies.
I think that it was in their first
That
three
shit's wild.
films they've ever made. I mean, because they called New Line the house that Freddie built,
Right.
Because Nightmare on Elm Street put New Line on the map, but that was '84. So this would have
his
been
friend
81.
Bob Shea that ran
Yeah.
New Line, and he would just travel around to theaters with Pink Flamingos in the back of his car and just showing it. Just early film distribution.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Not knowing anything about that. I mean, my friend has this movie in his car. He really wants to. He ran out of. A lot of times a church.
Yeah.
They would rent them out, and it's just a rec room or somewhere, and they were going to project that.
And it's Pink Flamingos.
And it's Pink Flamingos. Yeah.
Which you would be like, I would understand people being like, am I okay? Like, are these people going to lock the doors and kill me after they make me watch this?
Absolutely. I love that, you guys are talking about your best 3 or top 3 of these movies. And you're right. There's something about the ones that are just rewatchable, you know, because I love Desperate Living.
I love it too,
but it's a journey.
But when you're
watching that movie,
and if you're gonna have your like put upon, desperate female, the first 30 minutes of the first 20 minutes of Desperate Living is Mink Stole screaming.
Oh, it's Mink Stole. It's like that's her performance of that's her tour de force.
Yeah.
The beginning of Desperate Living, I think, is a masterpiece, and then it sort of keeps going. I think we do miss Divine in that movie. There is like there's like it's so ugly, and I do love it for it, but it's one that it just doesn't have the pace that the others have. But I think what I related to Polyester so much is that it was really his first movie to take on suburbia,
right?
And and that's what he's been doing all along, is like really aping wholesome American family values, and this movie is that. Also, I don't know that I knew Douglas Sirk movies very well when I first saw this, but I knew what he was doing on some core level. And then you go back and you watch All That Heaven Allows, or any, you watch any of those.
The women's pitches.
The weepies. And you realize that, Divine is Jane Wyman or, Barbara Stanwyck or whoever.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's like, it's that sense of like, these unhappy women who are like pining out the window and, wishing for better lives. And it does everything to me. But this movie just is so much packed in.
And it's one of those movies that if it's been a while since I've seen it, I'll kind of forget how fucking crazy it is.
Yes.
And then I put it on and I'm like, oh my God, I completely forgot about the Baltimore Footstomper.
Oh,
I think I will be on my deathbed and I'll just be having flashes of the Baltimore Footstomper.
I don't want to be on television. Oh God. Like, yes, it's so good.
And, for me, when I first was introduced to John Waters, I was a young kid, 88. Hairspray comes out, right?
Yes.
And I've talked about this before.
Same. That was my first one too.
Yeah. I've talked about this before on the show. Hairspray comes out. And to me, I saw it as almost an Airplane style spoof.
Yeah.
Because he's there with the spinning spiral, like trying to hypnotize Penny and little things like that. I didn't see the social commentary. I was a kid. And I didn't know from Douglas Sirk movies or the women's picture. So when I saw this, to me it was like, okay, he's taking soaps. This is a soap opera, right?
Yes.
And it has
the soap opera music,
the organ,
which I think is a very East Coast thing, right?
The organ?
The organ. I think that weren't those sort of regional.
You mean just having it in your home?
Soap operas? No, I meant like the soaps.
Sure. Well, I don't know, because that I do have a question about that. Like, did they play those organs just on General Hospital like in the 60s, or is that just something that they?
I don't know.
I don't know. We don't know. We're not old enough for that.
God, we're so young. We're frightfully young.
We'd have to ask someone old.
If you want to feel old, do you know what the first John Waters movie I remember watching when I was a teenager?
Yeah.
What?
It was Cecil B. Demented, because it was the new one.
Wow.
So I would have been of that age that I was around 13, 14 when that movie came out.
Okay.
And I had heard John Waters just because I remember just reading his name on the internet or just looking up movies, my books about film. And I feel like Cecil B. Demented was the first one I could get my hands on.
Yeah, it was so much of it was access before internet and before the regular. Because, I feel like because he didn't make a movie from 81 to 88, that there was that whole generation that those of us who, because I'm 46, so I would have been, I would have been 4 when Hairspray, I was 4 when Polyester came out.
Yeah.
And I was 11 when Hairspray came out. So by the time Hairspray is on VHS and it's PG and it looks like one that and I didn't know, I don't think I knew anything about John Waters then. I'm sure I didn't when I was 12 and we're in North Carolina and we rented the movie. I loved it. I watched Hairspray constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember in the video store seeing Polyester, seeing the VHS tape.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that orange, and it was that image of Divine and Tab Hunter and her head leaning back. And I just was like, there was something about it that kept calling to me, and it terrified me and aroused me. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm looking at.
Because you know that Divine is a man. But she's playing.
Or do we? When
she's playing
11
a woman
years old.
in
right.
this movie.
I think I knew because I recognized her from Hairspray, and I was like, "Oh, that's the mom from Hairspray." And I knew that it was a drag queen, but I was also like, there was something about it that I was like, I know that this is going to be something that my family's going to tell me is very wrong for me.
Right.
And I know this is something I very much need.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like Eating Raoul had the same feeling when I saw that video. I was like, this is the same thing.
Yeah.
And you just like, as a queer kid, you immediately gravitate to things. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know how, I always say, like, I don't know how in the Samuel French catalog of all the plays I could pick. But of course the title is Psycho Beach Party.
Right.
How I Discovered Charles Busch. And that way that I'm like, oh, this is where I'm going with this. Like, you you had to seek out, and you found it.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but I don't think I saw Polyester until, I'm sure I rented it in high school. I think I saw it. I definitely remember where I was when I saw Serial Mom for the first time, because that was when I was in high school when that movie came out.
Yeah.
And that movie changed my life. And I would say that arguably it's one of the best films of the 90s. I also think Kathleen Turner should have gotten an Oscar nomination.
Especially for 94, where there was room in the category.
Was that the year that fucking the piano won? That was the year before.
that was 93. 94,
I love Holly Hunter, and I'm glad she's an Oscar, but I hate that movie. It's awful. What was 94?
94 was...
Was it?
Ryder was nominated for Little Women, but
God,
she did not
no.
win. Oh, Jessica Lange.
For Blue Sky?
For Blue Sky.
No one remembers that movie.
Yeah,
no one's talking about it. And Jessica Lange already has an Oscar.
Yeah.
Jessica Lange's amazing.
She was surprised when she won that.
I'm sure.
She was like, what am I doing here?
But it's a thing where, you know, they really don't give...
And that movie was held
genre
too.
Horror.
It was what?
It was held. It was
Blue Sky?
filmed like a number of years before.
Serial Mom was.
It was
Blue Sky.
Because it was an Orion movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But no, right there with you.
Comedies, genre movies, especially in the 90s, completely overlooked by the...
And I think, especially for women, because they just don't want women to be fun. It's like, you know, I love that Kevin Kline has an Oscar for Fish Called Wanda. He completely deserved it. But, you know, it was just, there was just a thing where it's like, we wouldn't possibly think Jamie Lee Curtis for that movie. Right. It's like, she's also great in that movie. It's like, I just think that they think of like women need to be like important in these films.
Right.
And I do think that, you know, I think Divine deserved an Oscar nomination for Hairspray, if not for Polyester as well. I understand it's a different genre, but the commitment.
Yeah.
And this was the first time that Divine wasn't just doing the like outrageous drag queen, over the top crazy thing. There was real pain. There's real pathos. There's real it really goes through these like levels that, you know, I don't know. He'd probably laugh if he said that. He'd probably be like, "Fuck you," and I don't do that. But I just think he was such a gifted actor, and I think he does so much in this movie.
Do you know something kind of spooky? We just figured out like 10 minutes before you arrived.
His anniversary of his death
today.
35
years.
Could not believe it.
Yeah. Scott was gagged. He was like, "What?"
Gagged.
Yes.
We picked today for the recording.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild? It was the day that we could all get together, and it's like 35 years ago.
Yeah.
He was about to go do Married with Children.
Yep.
And the night before had a massive heart attack.
Yeah.
And apparently Married with Children sent a note with flowers after he died, and Married with Children producers said, "You could have just said you don't want to do the show."
He would have loved that, though.
Yes, of course. I love that.
That's amazing.
And I'm just so sad we didn't get to see Divine on Married with Children, because I love that show. What a perfect fit for him
it
to have done.
Great. Yeah. Especially seeing what the episode with Sam Kinison, it's like it would have been a good fit. That would have been a great character.
Absolutely.
And it would have been him out of drag, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I know that was probably pretty important to him, the transition to just being...
It's a Bundyful life. That was the episode.
Yeah, it was very much like, you know, I think he really wanted to get out of that and just doing, you know, and I understand that completely on my own stuff. It's like, I get why you're kind of like, just want to keep challenging yourself. And if you don't really fully see yourself, I think, you know, I mean, he was a drag queen that other drag queens hated.
Right.
Because no other drag queen was doing that gonzo, bizarro, ugly thing.
Yeah.
But he also was an actor, and I think he was like, he understood playing women.
Yeah.
In a way that John Travolta certainly didn't in that remake, because John Travolta had so much shame and winking and like I'm a dude in a dress.
John Travolta tried hard for that Baltimore accent.
Oh, it was the whole thing.
He really tried to go there.
The whole thing makes me so sad. And I say this, when I teach and I talk about, when people talk about playing different gender from their own gender expression, their own gender identity, and my example is, and I'm like, if you don't know these movies, go see both of them. I said, be Divine in Hairspray. Don't be John Travolta in Hairspray, because Divine is not ever winking at the fact that he's playing a woman.
He's playing it very real.
Yes, and it's like a genuinely beautiful performance. It's like John Travolta is doing everything but like, hey guys, I like chicks. Trust me. Oh, I'm not gay. All his shame, and it's so sad to me that I'm so glad that John Waters never has to work again because of the success of Hairspray. Right. But on another like cellular level, I am so sad that it was because John Travolta of all people, to step in.
Yeah.
We get a little share from his mom in
Hairspray. Yeah, it's a little share.
It's a little share.
Oh, Tracy. Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, you go from just the thing about Divine's performance, like you said, it's just he's embodying these characters, these women, but it's what John Waters is doing. It's playing up this suburban kind of like mythos of what's inside of these houses, what's going on.
Yes,
and she's especially. Mrs. Turnblad, what's her character's first name?
Edna
Turnblad. She's just like, she's this put upon what she's taking in laundry. She's doing, she's a seamstress. She's got this rambunctious teenager and her diet pills wearing off. That's exactly
I'm sorry. I took your. Sorry. I took your. Yeah.
No, but she, you know what I mean? These are just things that, you don't usually see those kinds of little real bits of people.
Well, you especially never saw a drag queen who also was at the height of his disco fabulous career.
Born to be cheap.
Yes, and you think you're a man and all that. It's like playing that real of a woman who was like not glamorous. I mean, she had a whole, obviously a transition and a whole thing.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting too, because when we're saying that Divine, possibly could have branched out and done something different with his career. And I always remember seeing at the video store Lust in the Dust.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And you just assumed it was directed by John.
A lot of people think that's a John Waters movie. Yeah.
Yep.
And that cover always got me because it's Divine and it's Lainey
Kazan just selling sex on
and
the cover
looking
of
like
that.
twins.
Mm-hmm.
Like they look like mirror image.
And Tab Hunter.
Tab Hunter again.
And that's something that I don't know what this is. I don't know who these people. I knew Lainey Kazan. I knew her face. She was just in a lot of things,
right,
in the 80s. And I knew Divine, but yeah, thinking back to a time when drag being what it is today. There's a whole huge conversation,
right?
What's going on in the country,
of course,
which is crazy and sad and stupid. But aside from all that, there's the other conversation of just how mainstream it has become.
Right.
And
which is why I fully believe that this is just all smoke and mirrors, because most people in this country are like, wait, no, we love drag queens.
Yeah, it's like the biggest show on television and all of that.
It's like, good luck with that angle now.
Yeah, exactly.
Post Drag Race, good luck.
But as a kid in a pre-Drag Race world, as a queer kid, I knew what drag queens were. I don't know if I didn't have... I think as a queer kid, I was just so afraid of being seen as even more feminine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because that's what gets you picked on, is being different and being more feminine as a boy. So I'm just like, okay, drag queen, that is not the road that I'm going to take in my life. But I was never like, ooh, gross. I was just like, okay,
I think we grew up with this like fear of this. There was always something different with Divine in me that I connected with and I understood that I never got with a lot of the others who were doing these like icons, like they were doing like, I never really connected with Barbara Streisand or that. Like I'm doing like, I mean, I love Betty Davis and I love Joan Crawford and I love those people, but I just drag queens that they were kind of doing, they would either do like these stars or they had like their own pun name and they did like, it was something I didn't quite connect with for a long time. And then there was Divine, but I was like,
I think it's really, interesting of when you look at Divine's big inspiration. John always talks about Elizabeth Taylor.
Yes.
As Divine's like kind of icon that he
well,
wanted to model
especially
himself
the wedding
off of.
and Female Trouble.
Yep.
The makeup and Female Trouble and the wedding especially, it is Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's even scenes in this movie because her hair is so black.
And you could argue that in this movie she's doing a lot of Who's Very Virginia Woolf in terms of like the alcoholism and all of it is.
I love when she gets the spotlight. When Divine gets the spotlight.
Yes.
Yeah. So okay, let's talk a little bit about this movie, about Polyester.
Yes.
It's something that I loved about John Waters as a kid being introduced to it. It was just how like I was just like so just whimsical. Francine Fishpaw. These names.
Even just in that name, Francine Fishpaw and her daughter Lulu.
Lulu and Bobo.
And Bobo, the
and
boyfriend.
Dexter. Well, I guess Lulu and Dexter are the kids and Bobo is the boyfriend. And then,
And, and the fact that the Francine's husband
Elmer,
who runs the porno theater, which is such a, I mean, gone are those days. Is like a good old guy that just runs the local porn movie theater,
proud of it, and rubs it in Francine's face.
Oh my god!
And then there's like the news report about it and his claim that his theater helped stop rape, and it's just like he's just such a he's such a pig on every level.
Yeah. I think it is so fun. It's laugh out loud funny when the news reporter is in front of the theater and all the men are coming out.
Running out. Yes, ashamed.
Yeah, and one guy just like zips up his pants.
So good.
Oh, man. I mean, and that's the thing that John Waters, like when you watch these movies, thank God for like DVD and Blu-ray, when you watch them, John Waters will do a commentary for every movie, and his commentaries are just as entertaining.
I prefer
as
to watch them with the commentaries.
Themselves. They're great, and you can listen to them again and again. And he talks about the days of like before everyone could own a VHS, a VCR, you know, and jerk off in the in your own home to whatever porn you wanted, and you had to go to the damn porno theater if you wanted to watch a dirty movie, or set up a projector in your basement, and like roll all that, rigmarole. But I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever been to one. Have y'all ever been to it?
There's the Tomcat.
There's the Tomcat in West Hollywood, right on Santa Monica.
I thought that was named Studs.
It was, it was the Tomcat. Then it was Studs, and I believe it's closed now.
Okay. And then there was one in Santa Monica behind the Promenade. There was another one. I think it was another Tomcat.
Isn't there there one on Santa Monica, like the Tiki?
The Tiki Theater. I believe that it's also there. I don't know. I've never.
I think that's a peep show.
And then one of those is now like a hipster bar.
Right.
That's Gold Diggers.
Gold Diggers. Yeah, Gold Diggers is like just a bar now. That used to have the turnstile.
Oh yeah.
To get in. Oh yeah. And is that the place where
Fred Willard.
Fred
Willard.
Yeah.
Fred Ward.
Fred Ward was from Tremors.
R.I.P.
Yeah, I think that was the Tiki.
Yeah. Well, no, that or Gold. Yeah. But yeah, that's just and famously Paul Rubens in Florida. But it's like you can't just go and jerk off in public and peace.
And why not? Let them do it. I have no problem with it whatsoever. Who cares?
There's no kids in there. There's no women in there.
Yeah.
There's nobody in there that doesn't want to see it.
Well, that's the thing. Everyone that's walking in there is over 18 and is signing up for it. Yep. And if anyone's inappropriately touched or groped or whatever, then that's a very different issue. But just because people let people do what they want to do.
Yeah. Obviously a sting. Justice for Paul Rubens.
Yeah.
30 years later.
Oh, great. I love him so much.
But it's just such a interesting and crazy kind of thing when you think about like this history of like porno and now it's just so ubiquitous. It's just on your phone, it's just anything. Right. You can just anybody can.
OnlyFans is just like broken down the door, and it's just sort of, and now it's its own. Now it's its own thing now.
I mean, now like celebrity adjacent people are doing it.
Yeah.
Well, but I also think like at this time, it was like the worst shame.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That a woman in suburbia could have is like your husband runs the porno theater.
Yeah.
Like it was truly like the worst thing ever. And John Waters and all of them knew at the time how ridiculous that was to feel shame about that. And it was like, so of course your daughter is going to be dancing for quarters at the lunch table. Of course your son's the Baltimore Footstomper who sniffs glue, and of course she's going to be like, all the problems are going to come out because they're just moralist people. Yes. And Francine is just the victim of all of it.
And she's a good Christian woman.
Yeah.
The introduction of these two kids, Lulu's dance, I'm obsessed with.
Lulu, you have failed every single subject again.
Oh, no, Ma. They changed the grading system. F is for fantastic.
You little liar. It's a good thing you're not Pinocchio. Your nose would be a mile long.
I swear to God on the Bible it's true.
Stop that lying.
I got voted president of student council today.
Liar, Mel.
I'm a cheerleader, too.
Liar, liar.
I'll tell you another thing, Mother. I quit school today, and I'm going to get me a job as a go-go girl down at the Flaming Cave Lounge.
You'll work at the Flaming Cave Lounge over my dead body. Now you go to your room and you stay there until I call you.
Lulu's dance. Lulu Fishpaw is my favorite character in movie history.
She's my favorite, certainly my favorite John Waters character of all of them. I love it. The fact that she's always in, to me, like if you look at the script, this is so weird, but like in West Side Story, okay, the Jet girls, they're like named Velma and Graciela. And in the script, we did at college, one of them, it was like, it's like Velma and Graciela lost in a world of jive. It's how they describe these girls, these Jet girls, as lost in a world of jive. Yeah. And I think that's Lulu Fishpaw.
Oh, she is.
She's constantly dancing, gyrating.
Yeah.
When she walks into the kitchen and throws her books into the trash can and starts dancing and saying F stands for fantastic.
F is for fantastic.
And shaking up the soda pop and like spraying
everything.
This little brat.
Everything is just, it's musical.
Yeah. And everything is a lie. Every word out of her mouth is a lie. Just the F is for fantastic. And I borrowed this outfit. And the idea of making a date with a square boy.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, yes.
The decoy
absolutely.
date.
Yeah,
Freddie.
So that she can be with Bobo.
Yeah.
And it's so
ditching
good.
At first, I misremembered and thought that Freddie was in on it. But no, he drives her down the driveway.
Right.
And he's like, what the heck?
Right.
We're trying
and then
to go
Bobo's down the street. Yeah.
Poor Freddie.
Poor Freddie. Poor Freddie Ashton.
Oh.
Now, Bobo is played by Stiv Bators of the Dead Boys. And I'm not very familiar with the Dead Boys.
I'm not either. I know he died not that long after the movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Car accident, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was a car accident, and then like there was some weird circumstances that he just internal injuries and all that.
Oh wow.
Was that like a punk band?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the Dead Boys. Not super familiar with their music, but I mean, he is that, and I don't know how just the casting people behind these movies, the way they just pick. All the way up to Cecil B. Demented with Michael Shannon. They're these guys that he picks. Gator in...
Well, John, I mean, I think that's on him and on Pat Moran, his casting director, who's been with him from the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's that he's known... It's like the great filmmakers. It's like when Robert Altman's like, putting Huey Lewis and Shortcuts or whatever, and you're like, I want that energy. I don't want just actors from Tish. In this movie, I want the real thing. And also, John Waters' type is rough trade.
Yes,
he's in love with Johnny Knoxville. That's his type, and he says in all of his books, like once a week on Friday nights, I think he gets drunk. He drinks one night a week and goes to like scary biker bars.
Sure.
And that's his thing.
Yeah.
He likes those, and that's where you find, and I think it was Michael Shannon's first movie, I believe, was this with him.
Credited as Mike Shannon.
Yeah.
In
Mike
the credits.
Shannon.
They discovered Dexter at a bar in New York the week before filming that they hadn't cast Dexter. And it's sort of a Lana Turner story where they went into this bar in like Greenwich Village or something and it was just like, hey, do you want to be in a movie?
Yeah.
That is just unbelievable.
And I think it's the only credit
his only
he
movie
has.
he ever did. Yeah.
And like Gators in Female Trouble, and who is the very similar character in Pink Flamingos, Crackers.
Yeah.
It's just
totally.
Yeah, all these, and
It's
you're
that-
right. Even
it's
up to
that-
Johnny Knoxville, it's
that scrawny, dirty, sexy. It's his thing of like it's rough trade.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And that's what that's what he loves, and and I love him for it. He probably made me love it too.
Well, that's the thing. When you first, I think my sister finally got her hands on a copy of Pink Flamingos, and I was probably 15 and she was 17, and we're just watching it at our dad's house, and I'm just like, oh, I can't believe I'm watching this with my sister, first of all. And I always say this, so you're watching it, and if you've never seen it or if you're not familiar, you're just like, should I be watching this?
Is this a dirty movie?
Is this a porno?
Oh, well, because it also feels like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Like it feels like someone is
Kinda
filming
real,
this
yeah.
and we shouldn't be watching this.
Yeah.
Like this is not okay.
Yeah. And the scenes with these guys, he always gets them naked. I mean, in the earlier ones, we don't see Dexter.
Oh, you see Gator's balls in Female Trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, full close up.
Yeah.
Oh,
I forgot in this movie Francine's like dream sequence with the jockstrap.
Oh yeah. The sexy jockstrap guy.
Sexy jockstrap guy with his nice furry crack.
Yeah. I forgot about that one. I was like,
looks
there's
like-
no nudity in this one. Oh, there.
Oh,
He looks like he should be dancing at Martha Plimpton's bar in Pecker.
No teabagging.
No teabagging.
Yeah, I mean, this was his first movie without. That was his first R-rated movie, I believe.
It was his first R-rated movie.
okay.
Everything else had pretty much been unrated or the equivalent of X, I think. And this is kind of his first movie without. I mean, who's all of his cast that's in. What do they call them?
The Dreamlanders.
The Dreamlanders. Yeah. There's only really just two of them, but there's others, but they're kind of on the peripheral of this movie.
There's Mink Stole, Edith Massey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Edith. Yeah, Edie.
And then yes, the rest are like Mary Vivian Pierce is a small part in it. Because I think Mary Vivian Pierce is the only person who's been in all of his movies.
Okay.
Because I don't know that Mink did all of his very, very early ones before Mondo Trash Show. But I mean, but I think this is also, I love that he also like casting wise, he cast the three of them, Divine and Mink and Edith Massey, all in very like different roles.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very
and that's what's funny, and that's what's
Yeah.
fun about Edith Massey in this movie
Oh.
is that she's playing a very different character.
She's new money.
God.
She's new money, and there's just something so endearing of watching Edith Massey in this role. Of that, she gets to wear these fancy clothes,
Yes.
delivering all of this dialogue.
Yes. And she's, what do we know why she has money? I feel like she's newly.
She inherited it from an employer
Because
So
she was a housekeeper.
She was a housekeeper.
Oh,
and
right.
maid.
Okay.
So
yes,
so
yes.
she just got a windfall from one of her employers.
Yes. And but it's like so funny because also like Mink Stole usually plays the uptight,
Yep.
really, or the villain, and she's a villain in this movie too. But she gets to be a slut in this movie, which is so fun. It's like Sandra,
Yes,
with the Bo Derek,
the Bo Derek cornrows,
The Bo Derek
and
braids.
she's just in lingerie the entire movie.
Yes,
she's just in a bra and panties the whole time.
it's delicious.
Yeah. Okay. Edith Massey as Cuddles. New money.
Oh, Cuddles.
She is, like Scott said, she's in a different costume every scene. She's got like a equestrian look. She's got like a plaid skirt.
She has her tennis look,
her tennis togs.
You know? She has like a ball gown later, right, when she gets to the
for her own cotillion that she's throwing.
Yeah, as you do when you're wealthy,
when you're a 50-year-old woman. But I love Edith Massey. I love her performance.
She was the first
movies.
voice on our podcast, remember?
She was the first voice on the trailer for
our trailer
the show. Does she have too many lines in this movie?
Possibly.
Too many lines that she could more lines that she could handle, probably.
What's the one line that she trips up on that she can't pronounce?
There's a word that she says that I forgot what it is.
She does go, poor Francine. Poor Francine.
It's
I also love every time I go in to try and close, I hear myself go, God damn these designers. Like that has just stayed with me forever.
Yeah. Going to try on clothes, and of course she doesn't fit into any of them. She's ripping the clothes in the fitting room.
Oh,
God damn.
While Divine is throwing up in her purse. It's so great.
And that's okay. That's the weird thing about Cuddles, because it's Edith, yes. Her performance is crazy, yes. But it's just the character too, because Francine is at one point hanging herself from the refrigerator door, and Cuddles comes in and she's like, let's go shopping.
Right. And she's also kind of an enabler, and she doesn't know how to really help Francine at all. Like, she really loves Francine, and she does the recon on like finding out that Elmer and Sonder are having an affair, does all that, but she's kind of not really. And it's also, why I think, there's a real like sadness in this movie where you realize at the end, like, Francine is all alone. Yeah. Like, she really doesn't have, like, as much as like her kids like get reformed and everything, it really is like, I'm on my own.
Yeah.
And she thinks she has all these lifelines.
Right. And when the movie starts, she's married to Elmer, who hates her.
Yes.
She has a beautifully appointed home. Beautifully? ?
French Provincial.
Obsessed with this living room.
That velvet
blue couch.
Disgusting.
Every single time that couch is revealed,
I know.
Just crack up.
And it looks like there's just standing dust like in the air.
Yeah.
It's so like
she has little small singular shelves that only have like a figurine,
a single curio
sitting on it.
Yes.
At one point when Elmer is asking for a drink and she wheels
the bar cart,
entire bar,
the bar cart.
We are shopping for bar carts right now because we're trying to get a bar together.
Maybe we can get a wheelbarrow.
I'm kind of looking at
you
this
need
bar
to get
cart.
One of those that just
I need to get one of those.
Along.
Yep.
So he's sitting there, and behind him are these. They're not velvet paintings; they're frames. And in the frames
is it peacocks or what is it?
But there's like a velvet backing. It's like, it's not a painting or a photograph. It's soft sculpture or something.
Yes.
It's red velvet in a painting, and there's like a peacock or something in there. It's wild. I've never seen anything like it. And a funny little character beat is that those big plastic air fresheners are all throughout the house.
Yes.
And I don't think I noticed it until this time when she, because Francine is her olfactory senses.
Yeah, she has a hypersensitivity to smells, which is tied into the odorama of it all.
Which we haven't even talked about.
Right. We'll talk about that later.
But when Elmer goes to sleep, he just raises his arm over his head like you do when you go to sleep.
Sure.
But it's just his bare arm in the air, and she pulls this plastic air freshener thing, and just sniffs it. She's just sniffing it and waving it around, and she puts it down. And as I'm watching later on, they're everywhere. They're all over the living room. They're on both.
And this has to be
nightstands.
just something that either Divine or John just remembers from their childhood.
Yeah,
because it's so specific.
It's a weird specific.
But I guess it's always been like the idea of like covering things up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like instead of like eradicating a smell, we're just going to put more perfume on top of the turd.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and that's like what suburbia does. It's like, just like, and everything's false and chemical.
Yeah.
And just like, Yeah.
Especially at the time, in a pre-Febreze kind of a world.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
The air fresheners are in like hairspray bottles, or they have those cone things that you lift up the top and it's just got a weird like gelatinous thing inside there. It's like, what is it? Who knows what it's made of? And all these smells, like you're saying, they just are on top of whatever is in your house. And in the 60s and the 70s and even and through the 80s, it's just these air fresh. The state of fragrance in your home was not great. I mean, I don't know what's in a Febreze. I'm not saying that is like great for the environment either, but it feels
it's got to be better than those aerosols that they were spraying.
Yeah. We just got a good haul from
Bath and Body
Works. The 3 wick candles were $14.99 a piece.
Oh,
so we were like going crazy.
So we should probably segue into Odorama.
Yeah.
So I mean, John Waters grew up on the William Castle movies with Everyone Loves a Good Gimmick, the skeleton flying down the movie theater,
the Tingler and all those.
The seats that would sort of give you a shock or like buzz you. And they did something similar in this movie, and it's called Odorama. And whenever you went to this movie in its theatrical run, you were given a card with 10 cents. Mm-hmm.
So the card cost an extra 10 cents?
Oh, no,
10
cents.
Fragrances.
SCENT.
Okay, gotcha.
When we were doing our
10,
viewing yesterday, I did do them.
He scratched them. I'm very much like
he doesn't want to.
I'm very much like don't scratch the card.
I have an Odorama card from the 80s that I'm sure is completely de-skunked by this point.
And this card doesn't tell you what all the fragrances are. You probably.
Well, I mean, it's supposed to be a surprise in the movie. Right?
Yeah.
Too.
Oh, that's true.
So. The only thing in this movie that I don't like and I really hate it is the opening scientist.
Right.
It's so cheesy and it feels very Kentucky Fried Movie.
Yeah,
and it feels very like wonk, wonk, wonk with this guy's doing a bad Freud. Oh, Dr. And he's like with chemicals. And it's just, it's so terrible. It starts and when I show people, I'm like, just ignore this. It's just explaining, what it is. But you get the smell of roses as number one. And then all the others are terrible, right?
Yeah.
Flatulence, model airplane glue, pizza, gasoline, skunk, natural gas, new car smell. I like that one.
The new car?
I like the new car smell for Tab's car. Dirty shoes and air freshener.
Oh, because
those are the 10. Those are the 10 cents. Yep.
Yeah, because it comes back around. It's a happy ending, as it is
to the good sense,
of course.
Yeah, I think I read that like early VHS releases didn't have it. That opening crawl or the opening.
Oh, interesting. Just because the cards wouldn't have been with it. I remember when we rented this from Videotech in South Pasadena. The first time I watched it, their rental gave us a card.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
The video rental gave us a card.
Well, Videotech also does like.
So would that come with?
They probably went out of their way to put it
to buy one Criterion
to get
and put it in there.
Or no, I mean this was way before
pre-Criterion.
This was way pre-Criterion. I think they just went out of their way to get a card.
Sure.
They had one card that they would just trade around, and people were scratching and sniffing a card.
Yep, probably.
Oh God, love the 80s, 90s.
Oh no, this was like 10 years ago.
Oh, okay. So it's just 40 years of fingernail dust, gathered and shared.
Why not?
Sure.
The history of Odorama is interesting because they brought it back with the Spy Kids movie, and there's some controversy with the name. So they used it's for the Rugrats Go Wild movie that used Odorama, and they used the logo, and it was because the copyright lapsed, and they didn't renew it with New Line.
Wow!
So
damn
Paramount swooped in and got it. And John said that he was pissed when he found that out.
Of course.
He was pissed that he didn't remember to renew the copyright.
Oh,
Right.
Wow.
They later did something with the Spy Kids movie.
Okay.
Well, I mean, for what it's worth, everyone will always connect Odorama with polyester.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but
so
I think in
weird.
the first run of VHS, it didn't have the opener with the scientist, and the numbers didn't flash because you didn't get a card, so it didn't.
In my memory, the one I saw,
they did
have the numbers flashing, but we didn't have a card.
Okay.
And I just was like, oh man, but yeah,
it's probably really fun to see with an audience.
Oh, I can imagine. I don't think I've ever seen this with an audience. No.
Yeah.
No.
we have not even talked about Tab Hunter.
Let's talk about Tab Hunter.
But
so,
you know, one of the things that every time I watch this, I think the same thing. He didn't come in until like an hour.
He's late.
He's introduced in like the last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like what an amazing thing for him to do.
Yeah.
You know, and his career.
I mean, he was doing like dinner theater,
right?
When John Waters called him up, and then this movie led to stuff like Grease 2.
Yes, right. Because and it's like, but it was really John's first like star that he got.
Yep.
Because I mean, like in Desperate Living, he had Liz Renee, who was a burlesque star, but like not a household name, and you have Tab Hunter,
heartthrob
from Dobie Gillis, and all these, and it's like he's making out with Divine, and you know, and plays it so straight, like plays it just like
plays a really good scumbag,
completely,
and like I mean, it's only 1980, and so I'm just like he looks great, like he looks so good.
He like looks great till the end. Like, I mean, he was like sexy man.
When you watch that documentary, he pretty much looks the same as he did in Polyester.
No, I know. Yeah, I mean, he was at the screening at Outfest, and I remember seeing him in person. I was like, he's still got it going.
I love that. Yeah, that's so funny because I always remembered the John Waters movies for having that really fun stunt casting.
Yeah.
You know, and having those big stars of yesterday or whatever, just kind of being peppered through these movies. And,
Hairspray and Crybaby, especially, he just got so many people in those. And then his movies after that with Kathleen Turner and Melanie Griffith and Tracy Ullman, like he always
Patty
would get
Hearst.
like Patty Hearst and he'd get like all these people. But this was a big deal to get Tab Hunter. I don't know if Tab was openly gay in 1981.
Right, probably not.
I mean, I would think probably just gay to people that knew him.
People that knew him.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, the documentary does claim that like his career was pretty much ruined to protect Rock Hudson.
Oh, sure.
Because they had the same management, and they basically were both caught, and they were like, we got to save one. And Tab went down, and it did ruin his career.
Yeah.
When people found out. But
did you read his book, Tab Hunter Confidential?
No, I have not read it. Yeah,
it's really good.
Yeah.
It's interesting because in there's an interview with him, and he talks about when they offered him the movie, and they're like, okay, but you just have to be okay with one thing. And he's like, what is it? And they're like, your character has to kiss Divine. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, of course they would have to kiss Divine. Like he's the love interest. He's like the Lothario and all that. But it just completely like doesn't go over my head. But to me, I'm thinking, why wouldn't he have a problem kissing Divine? But in the 80s or 1980, the late 70s, it's like this is a man. We know this is a man.
Your average dating man might have a problem with that,
right?
Yeah. But he was game.
Yeah, and he was just like, of course, yeah.
And as we know, as gay men, we know that gay men can be the worst about that.
Yeah.
About doing that. Well, in terms of like, I don't want anyone to perceive me as possibly gay, because a lot of straight guys are like, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Like, a lot of straight guys are like, I'll kiss another guy.
Yeah.
Especially now, but even back then, I think when they were like, but if there was speculation that they might be gay, it was even harder to get someone to do that. And the fact that he just didn't give a shit is awesome.
Yeah.
And so punk rock.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
As I remember when reading his book, I think a lot of him stepping away from Hollywood was also a personal choice of that. For my well-being, I have to step away too.
Yes.
Just because I want to live my life on my own terms.
And from the documentary, he seemed like such a happy person
Yes.
who really followed that versus the Hollywood model of anything for my career. I got to be a bigger name. And and it's really admirable, I as much as like, I want to be doing more and having more, like, and the Hollywood of it all. But it's also like, at a certain point, what's it worth? What does it get you? And, there were so many of his generation, like, God, they just would chew you up. And it's like, Paul Lynde had a horrible life. It's like when you think about like to be gay in that era, it's like, oof. It's rough.
Yeah, yeah. And especially like if you're going to be like a Paul Lynde type or Paul Lynde in particular. It's like, okay, you're going to be.
You have to be a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I guess like, Paul Lynde couldn't really hide it.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
why would you? Like, Tab Hunter could easily have hidden it in a way. Like he could have, and I love that he was like, yeah, no, I want to be happy and I don't give a shit. I don't need to like, who do I need to be?
Right.
Straight for, which is so awesome. That
and
not that it's against anything against people like me, like effeminate gay men who are like, we know you walk in the room, we can tell. I do think it's a different journey for people who have to come out every time they walk into a room. People really have no idea.
And especially probably when you look like Tab Hunter.
Right.
Yeah. That when you're you're a matinee idol and you're every girl's kind of boy next door. Too.
Right.
That has to be really hard.
Yes. Because people especially back then, they just assumed you were straight.
Was he linked with Anthony Perkins, or am I making that up?
Yes, they were.
Okay. And see, Tab Hunter always seems to me like such a happy person.
Well,
and Anthony Perkins
he wrote about
He
wrote about in his book of how kind of complicated that relationship was. For
Okay, because Anthony Perkins seems like a very
tortured.
I think Anthony Perkins was probably pretty salty in person.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. If Meg Tilly has anything to say about it,
we
just
did our Psycho 2 rewatch.
Oh my God, I haven't seen that movie in forever. 22 years.
Wow. Yeah.
They allegedly did not get along on set, but I think their chemistry works when you watch
Psycho 2.
Meg and
totally.
Yeah, it works. Yeah. Okay, so my question is, Todd Tomorrow, Todd Tomorrow. So he's that's a soap opera name. So he is sleazy, right? He's got this car, fucking cool car.
His introduction when Divine's in the back seat. And she sees him standing,
and he's just got he's just like scratching his dick.
Yeah.
But his costume choices, they're supposed to be corny, right? Like this is not supposed to be 1980 hot guy dresses like this, or is it?
Are they going for slick used car salesman?
No, it looks. I think it's corny even for the time.
Oh, I love it. I think it's like
the plaids and the thick polyesters. He's got a very like Larry from Three's Company kind of vibe.
Totally. I don't know. I think I do think it's used car salesman.
Yeah.
Also, like I don't know like that all American dad. I don't know, like what. That
because he's a certain age too. He's not a young man in this. He's not old by any means, but he's not a young man in this movie.
Right.
And I'm assuming he's just. I don't think that he's like a divorcee. I think he's just an old swinging kind of bachelor.
Yeah.
And I mean, it turns out that he's in cahoots with LaRue, mother. That
character is wild.
That character is. I love that she's fully on cocaine.
Yes.
Yep.
And
she's a mountain of cocaine.
Oh, and I also love her line like free, rich, white, and happy.
Yeah.
Just like everything terrible.
Yeah. And it does kind of take you by surprise if you're not familiar with it. Because I feel like we watched this movie.
I forget about the character of the mother.
Yeah, and I love that her name is LaRue, but I don't know. I feel like the first time I watched it, I was like, okay, something is amiss here. There's got to be, there's got to be something going on with Todd Tomorrow. Why he is so obsessed with Francine, and you eventually find out that he's with the mother, and they're trying to lock her up, right? Put her in a insane asylum, I think, and then sell her house and
and like sell the kids into like prostitution or something.
White slavery. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, like she's everything terrible. I mean, like she literally calls Edith Massey retarded at one point. Like she's just like awful, like in every possible way.
Yeah. Because at first she's just like, she's your former maid. Don't you can't associate with her. She's the help, whatever. But then she straight up calls her retarded.
Yeah,
and
not to be friends with retarded. Like that's why that's how she says it. It's just like,
Yeah, and then all the stuff about being rich and free and white, and then you're like, okay,
yeah,
all right,
yeah,
this lady,
pretty rotted.
Yeah, she's awful.
Yeah,
but it's also like, you know, she's so disappointed in Francine, like that, like what Francine's become. Suburbia, the values they teach you, and like basically like making fun of her for being an alcoholic, making fun of her for having a divorce, even though she's like so much better without Elmer. It's like, you know, what a failure you are,
right,
on all levels,
right.
You know.
But I mean, yeah, she would most likely get to keep this house, and if the kids weren't as awful as they were, but the kids do come around. You know, Dexter eventually gets caught. When Dexter gets caught, and that little boy on the news. I saw some weird looking hockey.
Oh yes. That's right. I forgot about him. Yes.
That little boy makes me laugh every time.
So according to John, he said on the commentary that there actually was a Footstomper in Atlanta.
Okay.
So there were Footstompers at large at this time. These guys guys that really got off on stomping on people's feet.
Women's feet.
Probably women's feet. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that Dexter, like, you know, he's stalking them from behind slowly. Then he stomps on their foot and he just laughs and laughs.
Yes. Well, and again, like, he has an ability to make these really disturbing things kind of childish and gleeful and playful. You know, it's like not like as horrifying, because that's really terrifying.
Yeah.
That someone's like strung out on glue.
Yeah. Introduce huffing kitchen supplies too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Lulu, the punk boyfriend, you know, it's kind of a little surprise there at Halloween when he's like, okay, you don't got any candy, then you're getting a trick. And they come in, pulls a gun, shoots LaRue, the mother.
Yes.
And then what does she get the gun somehow and shoots him, or
she shoots him?
Yeah, because he straight up just dies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Something happens that he
dies pretty
shot.
early on.
Yeah. And
these are those dark directions that some of these John Waters movies take.
Every
like
now
when
and then.
you always remember the first half of Female Trouble, but then you tend to kind of not. I always kind of forget about the last 20 minutes of it when it gets
like
really
when she's
dark.
Like in prison.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, and that footage of the prison in that is so grim.
Yeah.
It's like you're watching Helter Skelter. It's like so creepy.
And that like electric chair, like it could be a real electric chair. Like, oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it does kind of take a dark turn there, but it's all for Lulu to kind of like turn her life around,
right,
and get into macrame.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
she gets sent off to the
the nuns.
The nun
for unwed mothers.
For unwed mothers.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right. She gets pregnant and she tries to give herself an abortion by like punching herself in the stomach.
And I love is this movie like 85 minutes long? Like there's so much that
it's not even 90 minutes. Yeah.
That just I love that it just goes.
Yeah.
Like it's just every minute there's some turn.
I mean, you want to talk about dark? The dog commits suicide.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I think they had to get some sort of a stunt dog or like a trained animal that could look like it had hung itself.
I mean, what's worse, the dog committing suicide with the note that says "Goodbye, cruel world" and the paw prints,
yes,
at the bottom, or the baby in the fridge in
Desperate
Living. That shot always gets me.
Oh,
when they open the fridge
and a baby falls out and gleefully giggles.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some story about that. Like it was a friend of theirs who was like, "You can have our baby and put it in the fridge, and we'll do the thing."
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, in Female Trouble, the baby that she get, little baby Taffy.
Yeah,
the mother is pregnant throughout the movie. It's a woman from Desperate Living, isn't it? I think it's.
The actual baby that's delivered. Yeah,
yeah,
and because that's a newborn
that's
baby,
a fresh baby
in that scene, you're like, that is an infant. That is exactly.
Yeah, it's. But yeah, there's always these little like shocking
race polo always makes me grasp my pearls.
What is it?
the race polo where they're like hitting Hasidic Jews walking down the street
with the broom
and Jean Hill's scene.
Yeah.
Jean Hill, yes, exactly.
She's not somebody to be fucked with, too.
No.
Yep.
Don't fuck with the sisters of the church.
Yep.
She bites a tire. She deflates a bus tire.
And John said that Jean Hill actually bit the tire and took out one of her teeth.
Oh, my God.
And you don't even see her mouth in the shot. It's just the back of her head. It wasn't even needed.
That's the thing, like commitment that they all had. Yeah. To doing whatever John wanted them to do.
Yeah. Susan Lowe,
of course. Yes.
She's the
mole from Desperate.
Exactly. She's the receptionist in Female Trouble. She's pregnant the entire movie. And then later on, she gives birth. And 2 days later, she says, sure, use my baby.
Oh, I love
use
that.
my baby for the newborn baby taffy scenes. Little crazy things like that. But
how cool to be that baby.
I know, right?
Like I was the baby in Female Trouble. Sure, bitch. Me too.
I'm Baby Taffy.
Yes.
The real Baby Taffy. Yeah. And yeah, that's the other thing too. You know, we see Mink. I mean, Taffy's an insane character. Yeah. Very sad character. I get very like
because you get the whole child abuse aspect.
My God.
Yeah,
yeah. I get that goes really dark when she goes and finds her real father. You know, and she goes to that house and stabs him and all that. And then you know when you see her later on in Pink Flamingos and then in this, she's just like so wild and just.
Mink Stole.
Mink, yeah.
Yeah, I just love that she takes every role like so authentically and seriously.
Have you ever worked with Mink at all?
I have. I did Eating Out 4 drama camp.
Of course.
Okay.
With Mink Stole, and it was a big reason why I wanted, when they asked me to do it, I was like, I get to be in a movie with Mink Stole. How do I sign up?
Yeah.
And I got to spend just a day with her. We were just on one day together, but all the other guys, the hot guys in that movie, was actually a really fun movie to make. And all the guys were working out like between every take, like how are my abs, and everybody was sleeping with everybody, and they're all were like who was hotter than who and all that. All I cared about was talking to Mink Stole.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care about any of these guys.
Yeah.
I want to know like everything. And she got that right away, and she was so gracious with me and like answered every question that I know she's answered a million times. But she said, then I remember because I was, complimenting her this and that. And she says, you know what? Honestly, like all the credit goes to John because the rest of us were just do whatever he tells us to do because we had no idea that anybody would even see these movies.
Right.
Sure.
She's like, we were all on speed and we were just like, whatever John says. And she's like, it's phenomenal to me that people have held on to all this and know it.
Yeah.
But, she's also like just really normal. Like, I mean, just really like easy and approachable and like really lovely. Like, a mom.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And you're like, you just don't know what you're going to say to somebody like that. When you get to like meet them and work with them. But she was really fun to just do whatever. And like, I also love that she was not a prude by any stretch, but she was not a filthy mouth cloud. She's like, I say what my lines are. I'm an actor. Like but yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. I love that she's like the touchstone of the eating out.
I forget that she's
saga.
I forget that she's like
the aunt.
She's the aunt. Yeah.
Yeah, she's in almost all of them, I think. If not all of them.
Of the main character that gets recast in every movie.
Yeah, I think it was
he doesn't get recast.
He was in the last 3, I believe. I'm trying to remember which of the two's aunt.
Which one?
I think she's Daniel Skelton's aunt.
I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I used to see him all around town. I remember.
Well, yeah.
He, Chris Salvatore have and Rebecca Cochin.
Chris Salvatore.
The 3 of them, all from those movies, have a new podcast out.
Oh, okay.
And I should know better than know the name of it. But they're all lovely. I had a great time doing that movie with them. It was a blast and a half, and getting to have that connection. And I've gotten to meet John a few times, and I'm always the biggest dork when I meet it because I'm like, how do you talk? I mean, it's like he's he's Carol Burnett, like
right,
the two of
sure.
them.
Yeah,
There's nobody else, that I'm that way with. I think if I met Meryl Streep, I'd be like, oh, that's odd. Hi, nice to meet you. But I don't think I'd have the same thing that I do when I'm around John Waters. It's like there's just I also am just like, there's nothing I'm going to be able to say to you.
Right.
That's going to connect. It's where I really understand fans in a way that I'm so like, in general, I'm like, oh, fans are so like, can be so weird and whatever. And then you're like, no, think about how you think of John Waters. And you're like, oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I wouldn't know how to, I just would not know. I don't know what to say to him.
There's this movie that's been in development recently, Liarmouth, a feel-bad romance that he might be directing, but I don't know what the status of
Okay, so
of it
have
is.
you read it?
No.
It's fantastic. It's his first and only novel.
Okay.
And it just came out last year. It is it's wonderful. It's about a woman who steals luggage from at airports. So she goes into airports and steals luggage.
Just from the carousel.
And she has, like, of course, a dirty, rough trade grifter guy who has a penis that talks to him.
Okay.
And the guy's straight, but his penis is gay. And it's just one crazy thing after another. And the entire book, I think, takes place in one day.
Okay.
And it's wonderful. And so, yeah, he said he's attached to direct it. And I hope he gets to make it.
Yeah.
He's so cool.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't made a movie since like 2003.
A Dirty Shame.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Liarmouth, Francine Fishpaw calls Lulu Liarmouth in this movie.
Oh, right.
When she says F is for fantastic, Liarmouth.
Yes.
If you're Pinocchio, your nose would be a mile long. The podcast you're talking about with Chris Salvatore, Daniel Skelton, and Rebecca Cochin is called Gamus.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. They just have a conversation with a new person every week, and it looks cute. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, check it out.
Because we love Chris Salvatore and Daniel Skelton.
They're all great.
Yeah.
They're great. Rebecca Cochin is so funny and so great. Yeah.
We started staying at the Triangle Inn mostly because of
eating out the opening weekend.
Oh, yes.
In Palm Springs.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and we love it there. Stay at the Triangle Inn, listeners.
They did that and drama camp at the same time. They were shooting both at the same time.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And
that's funny.
They did some like Lord of the Rings shit with the eating out movies.
Oh, absolutely. Very similar shooting schedule.
Exactly.
Well, we shot most of drama camp at a Jewish day camp called Camp Shalom in Malibu.
Okay.
And on the first day of shooting, my character's sex scene, which is mostly me screaming really filthy things over a mic, like not what you see. A rabbi walked by and heard us doing it, was convinced we were shooting porn and shut us down. So we had to leave and come back after we begged them to come back. So the movie was shut down for a few weeks. So then they went out to Palm Springs and did part 5 and then came back and did part 4.
Wow.
That's
a little
fun.
trivia for you.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Hot take on eating out.
I remember
first.
Ronnie from Make Me a Supermodel, I believe, was
Ronnie Kroll was in our
Yep. Drama camp.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those guys, they were all so great. And we were planning on spending like 2 weeks at this camp. And it's just Malibu. That's not far away. But we all packed like we were going to spend the night there for like 2 weeks because it was like, it's just easier than going back and forth early with
Mm-hmm.
And after the first day, we got shut down. And so they were nice enough to let us spend the night there. So we all played Spin the Bottle and we got really drunk. And so we all it was like a very big bonding experience.
That's cool.
Thanks to
You
my
can't
mom.
finish shooting your smut, but you can stay here for the night.
Exactly. And then we don't have to work tomorrow. Let's
Right.
crazy.
Even better.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of the Dreamlander cast. I mean, I guess that most of them sort of just have smaller roles in this movie. It's kind of just handed off to Divine Mink.
Cookie's in it. She has a cameo. What does she do?
Is she on the news?
Yes.
Is
she's a Footstomper
is it
victim.
Baltimore?
Yeah.
Yes.
She's
Footstomper?
a Footstomper
Yes.
victim. Yeah. The graphic for the Footstomper on the news.
I want that on a T-shirt.
Oh, so good. It's like a lightning bolt.
It's like the high-heeled foot, and there's like a lightning bolt, and it's just like throbbing. Yeah. And the art that he comes back from prison with, I was just like, I want that. I'm gonna put that up in my house.
It's so good.
Yeah. And so we were talking about when we were watching it, Lulu during her reformation that she doesn't quite become a Hare Krishna like like Taffy.
Like Taffy,
Yeah. But I love that she becomes a hippie and is all about macrame.
Well, I love John Waters' hatred of hippies.
Sure.
Like, he really hates that whole thing. Like, fuck you. I don't believe you. It's phony. And having lived in LA for 23 years, I get it. That like that aggressive positivity. It's like, ew, you're awful.
And probably too, when you're kind of part of a not that I'm part of like a huge subculture or anything, but I mean being queer, we're barely anything anymore. At this point, we're just like queer cis men. It's like we might as well be straight white guys.
Well, and also I get like with like his generation were the hippies, and it was like that thing where he came up with that, where everybody was doing it. So it's like, you're not really a hippie. You don't believe in that,
right?
And so it's popular to be that way.
And the hippies later just made a bunch of money in the 80s.
Right, exactly. They all became Reaganites. They all became awful.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess in like my generation, we had all the like fish heads.
That
who would buy $2,000 yoga pants.
Right.
And now like have crypto or whatever. It's like, give people like opportunity and money, and you see how fast they sell out.
Absolutely.
And I feel like he's always wanted to sell out. Oh, also, we haven't talked about two giant stars who were involved in Polyester. Debbie Harry.
Oh, yeah, Debbie Harry.
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray. Talk about Bill Murray being a part of
Bill
this
Murray
movie.
sings the song in the middle.
Get
We met.
out.
Our love became an ocean. That's Bill
The
Murray.
romantic montage.
The romantic
Bill
song.
Murray.
Bill Murray sang that song.
I just assumed it was Tab.
I know. It sounds very similar, but Tab sings the opening song.
Yeah.
But Debbie Harry wrote all the music.
Right.
And I think that she sings backup vocals for the opening song, right?
She does sing backup vocals, like Francine. And she also, I think, she wrote Lulu's song, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy,
And
Daddy.
it sounds like a Debbie Harry song.
Yeah.
So she wrote all of that, and this is the height of Blondie.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the height of Bill Murray, like coming out Saturday Night Live. And
Stripes. And those movies were huge.
And so how cool that, like, they
I
were,
love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And this is 8 years before Hairspray.
Yeah.
And her becoming part of,
right.
part of the crew.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that's fun because Bill Murray does do that like lounge singer act
Totally.
very
Totally.
well.
Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah, I love
And,
that.
at the time, Saturday Night Live was so counterculture.
Yes. Yeah.
And, coming off of that, being like, I'm going to go sing a song for a John Waters movie. That's so punk.
Counterculture, that's what it is, and probably John Waters himself probably got mislabeled a lot by like the general normie public as a hippie.
Yes.
Because he had long hair,
Right.
And he dressed funny. So, cut your hair, hippie. And he's like, I am not that at all.
And I would also say that, like, what I do think is so beautiful about all of his movies is they are very humanist movies. And they really, the good guys win in his movies. Like, the assholes, get roasted and eaten, shot, and awful. But, like, usually there's justice in his movies. And so you could argue that all of his movies have a real, like, beautiful, like, authentic, don't be an asshole message to them, And, Hairspray was groundbreaking, and that, like, and dealing with, like, integration and segregation. And granted, it was, 25 years after, but it's set, but it's like, that's nobody else was doing that, in the 80s, the height of Reagan and all that. He's like, oh, this is what it's really about. So, I mean, I think he was just against phoniness. And that's that's what on a core level, when I've been around him, I'm like, I'm going to sound like he doesn't like sycophants. He doesn't like somebody kissing his ass. And it's like, how do I give him that reverence without being like, oh my God, you're so cool? And he's like, thank you. That's cool. Thank you so much. It's like, he's like, punch me in the face and fucking tell me about your life, and now I'll respect you more,
Yeah.
And, I mean, he hitchhiked across the country, and just was like, told his assistant, like, don't come find me. Don't pick me up.
Right.
I mean, he's unlike anybody else. Thank God we're on the planet with him.
He tells a story in the Cecil B. Demented commentary about they needed a rap song, and he wanted to get an actual rapper, an actual like R&B hip hop artist to write it. He didn't want just like a white person to write a rap song.
Right.
But the thing was, it had to be about the movie industry. Very specific thing.
Right.
They're having a hard time finding.
Is it played during the credits?
And Cecil B. DeMille?
Yeah, it's Cecil B. DeMille.
No, it's that
Bankable Bitch.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And then there's like Bankable Bitch. There's like another one. So there's like a lot of movie film industry references in it. They're having a hard time finding it. And one night he's home, nothing to do, and he's like, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go to a bar. Just goes to a bar he's never been to before by himself, sits there, and starts talking to somebody and telling him this story about like, I can't find this. We need to get this rap song written. I don't know what I'm going to do. And they're like, oh, I know somebody. You should meet them. And he got their information, met him, and it turned out to be the person that ended up writing the song. And he's like, the moral of the story is go out, leave your house, go do something, talk to people, sit in a bar you've never been to alone, and talk to the people around you. And things will happen in your life.
Yes, absolutely.
And I was like,
it's wise advice.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know. It's also like it's just like things come to you. Just like follow the green lights.
Yeah.
And put it out there, and then also, be curious. But I also like, I do love going out to eat alone. I love going just to the theater alone or whatever, because that's when I find the best characters, because I'm not talking to somebody else.
Sure.
I'm really seeing.
You're observing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
I always like the story in that commentary when he met Melanie Griffith.
And she answered the door in like leather pants and barefoot.
And just cussing like a trucker. Yep.
She's great, and Cecil B. DeMille.
Yeah, Rosie O'Donnell talked about how Melanie Griffith.
I want a hot fucking dog.
Has a sailor mouth. Yeah, hot fucking dog.
Oh my God, was Pat Nixon fucked in this room?
You would do anything.
A fucking white limousine.
What am I, a coke dealer?
I always think of that whenever I see a white limousine.
Yes, I do too.
The nerve.
That's the thing about like his movies they're so insidious that like so many references that we can say, and there's common lingo among gay men when you say certain things, and everyone knows.
Yeah.
What you're talking about.
Do I look like a coke dealer to you?
Or just like everything. It's just like, I'm not Italian. Like there's just something about like, 2 chicken breasts, please. Like at Akbar, there's one bartender in particular. Every time I go up to him to order my drink, I'll go, I'll have 2 chicken breasts, please. Because it's just sort of like, why is that so great?
She goes to a woman's house for dinner.
An extremely large glass of ice water.
Oh my God.
I'm just looking through crazy things that happened in this movie in my notes. The Flaming Lounge Cafe was where Lulu was going to go dance. I just think that's just a funny name for a restaurant.
Yeah.
A Flaming Lounge Cafe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When they go to the drive-in, I'm fascinated with this drive-in that they go to. So does he run it?
It's who is it? Who is not Marguerite Duras? Who's the retrospective?
Yeah, gosh, now I don't remember.
And it's like the caviar dances in with the
oysters and caviar at the drive-in.
At the drive-in.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny because it's like that pretentious filmmaker. Because they're reading Cahiers de Cinema.
Divine's looking at
Volume 3.
Yeah.
She's looking at it. She's looking at it just like, what is this?
What is this? Like, what is it? Yes. But it's also so like, why is that? Like.
And is this where Cuddles is having her cotillion? Like, oh my God, it's so weird.
They kind of like don't make that fully clear, but it's almost like they go to this. It's like the opposite of Elmer's. She goes to the porn theater to like. The rich people go to a drive-in art house theater with caviar and champagne available. And oysters. Yes, of course.
Yeah. Speaking of, you mentioned earlier that like in his movies that the good guys typically win, the forces of good kind of prevail at the end. Mm-hmm. And in this movie, Cuddles has her driver.
Yeah,
Dietrich Heinz. Yep. That's it, Heinz. German driver Heinz, and he's like, "Ach und lieben."
Oh yes, of course.
And she's got her little like 2-way pager that she can like beep him on.
Yes.
And at the end, they
get married.
They're in love. They get married.
They're a couple. Mm-hmm.
And they run over Mother.
Yeah,
they run over LaRue.
Yeah. And inadvertently, you're just like, oh, and let's just get rid of them. And
I do love that they accidentally back over and kill someone, but it's the happy ending because
because they're awful.
Yeah,
but it's the same as in Desperate Living. They literally shoot. Does Mink Stole shoot her get shot in the asshole?
Yeah.
And they get eaten.
Yes.
And then all the good guys just eat them at the end and cheering.
But in Mortville, that's what happens when the good guys win.
Absolutely.
This was Edith Massey's last movie with him.
Okay.
So she got to go out with a happy
on
ending.
a high note.
Oh, that's so great. I know. I wonder, like, in the later movies, like, who they would have played.
Right.
I think he's been asked that, and he said he didn't write them after. Because there was a sequel to Pink Flamingos. There's a script of it called Flamingos Forever.
Right.
That you can get. And he's never made it because they're all dead. And
Yeah.
he's like, except for Mink. And it's like, and Mary Vivian Pierce is still alive. But it's like the rest, and it's like, so yeah, I think he's just like, I would never. But you just wonder, like, who would Edith Massey play in Serial? Would she have been Rosemary Ackerman? Would she have been Mary Jo Catlett?
Mary Jo Catlett,
Sure.
yeah.
Like, you're like, who would she have been?
A recycle bin doesn't fit in my kitchen.
Oh, the best.
And
gore.
we just the episode before this, it hasn't aired yet, but we just did Annie. Yep. Mm-hmm. Which I
Get
feel
'em
like,
all wet.
and I feel like Serial Mom just kind of, it just has. I'll always think of Serial Mom whenever I hear Tomorrow.
Oh, 100%.
Yep. We didn't talk about it on the episode, but I always think of Serial Mom.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's great.
I think Annie is a wretched movie with three of the greatest stars of all time.
Right.
We talk about
as the villains. I mean, like, that was probably for me, like, as a kid, watching that movie so much.
Yeah.
And I do love Anne Ranking, and of course, the gay kid in me was like, I like Grace,
Right.
But Carol Burnett's is next to John Waters, my favorite, of all time, and her performance in that movie is amazing. And then you have Bernadette Peters and Tim Curry,
Yep.
and that was like probably for me one of the first like. Ding, ding, ding. I like the villains way more than the quote-unquote heroes.
Right.
Yeah.
That little girl who plays Annie is wretched. I think she's awful. And I hate that character. I hate everything about that world. The FDR stuff is like, what?
Yeah.
Child star preciousness.
Oh, it's so cutesy and adorable. And putting her finger in her dimple and being like, I'm precocious. No, I was like, but for me, it's like, Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Team Rebecca De Mornay. Like, the certain things you're like, I'm on the side of the quote-unquote villain in this because, of course.
Yeah, yeah. Daddy Warbucks is screaming the entire time.
Oh,
just
yes.
like, I do not want to live with this man, even if it's...
No.
Even if he lives in, like...
And it's really a plotting... It's a tough movie.
So long. It's so...
Yeah. It's kind of a chore to sit through.
Yeah.
It was a fun episode, though.
It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know what I think about with Edith is there footage of her not acting? Because her acting is so specific. Just this delivery and,
Sure.
But I just want to see her being Edie, selling secondhand clothes.
Yeah.
I do think there's like footage of her like,
going in and talking to her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also know like the stories in his books that she would learn everyone's lines.
Yeah.
Including the stage directions. And so she would speak, and they had to tell her, like, she would go, eggs, Babs, I want eggs. Edith grabs the sides of the crib or whatever, and they're like, no, you don't say that. You just say your word, And, but again, that's authenticity. That there's no actor in the world who could give that.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You're like, that's what makes it so special.
Yeah.
Someone playing at it.
Right.
It's what's so scary when people go, we're going to make something. It's kind of like a John Waters kind of thing. And you're like, oh, I'm terrified of that.
Yeah. Or it's like just people saying like, I'm going to make a viral video.
Yeah. Exactly. We're going to make a hit movie.
Yeah. That's not how that works. So maybe she was just one of those people that you meet in life that you're just like, this broad is out of her mind. You got to meet her. She just is this crazy over the top persona, and she probably just delivered every word out of her mouth.
And that doesn't always translate to cinema, but in Edith's case, it did. Mm-hmm.
Well, and because he also like loved her and understood her, and never judged her. It was never like, even when she's sitting in a bra in a crib and like eating eggs.
Yeah.
she's not the butt of a joke,
Right.
weirdly.
Yeah, yeah. Or in her black lace up.
Oh, Aunt Ida.
Aunt Ida.
Yes.
Aunt Ida only has the best intentions in mind for Gator. She just doesn't want him to be boring.
She wants him to be gay.
Yeah.
That's all she wants is a Nelly nephew.
Yep. One of the first queer positive scenes in movie history, probably.
Yes.
Oh man, I think Nelly is just the funniest, old timey.
Yes.
When she says it would be so much better if you were a Nelly. Oh man,
so good. Nelly.
Yeah. So I would think about is Edie just off camera, just not as kooky? But no, I think she probably had to be. That's just how she. Yeah, and that's why John fell in love with her and just said you are going to be
right. And have the wherewithal to be like, I'm putting her in a movie.
Yeah.
And in all of my movies, in leading roles.
Yeah. Which was probably not the easiest thing to get these performances out of her, especially.
Well, especially you're shooting on stolen film. Yeah. They didn't have tons and tons of film, and they were like, oh, we really have to get it. We have
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing when you read up about, the Dreamlanders and all of the people involved, and it just seems like such a wild time, but what a crew to be part of. And it's so many of the actors have passed on, but a lot of the actual crew are still with them. Like you mentioned, Pat Moran and
Vince Peranio.
Yeah, Vince. Still, and his the man who scores the movies. I can't think of his name right now, but his daughter has gone on to start composing for film, and
oh wow,
she helped him in Cecil B. Demented, and so
okay,
it's just the way these people stick with him and his projects,
and kind of, and even right down to Bob Shea from New Line.
Yes,
just sort of how integral John's success was to that studio. That maybe we wouldn't have something like Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings if it wasn't for John Waters' success with New Line.
Isn't it also crazy that they all grew up around each other?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
These people just sort of gravitated to each other.
Divine and John Waters went to neighboring schools. I don't think they didn't go to the same school, but what are the odds of that?
Yeah.
And that they're making excuse me, they're making this these there's just some that's just the kismet of that, that they've made, it's wild. I love that kind of stuff.
The universe brought them together.
Yep. And John talks a lot about growing up and being best friends with Mary Vivian Pierce and just that relationship going back to when they were kids and just being inseparable. And I mean, he talks about it on the commentary of this. That's where the decoy date came from.
Yeah, he used to get decoy date.
Oh, right.
When him and his friend.
Well, because him and Mary Vivian Pierce would get into trouble, and so their parents forbade them from seeing each other, and so she would make a date with someone with the intention of going out to see John, because otherwise they wouldn't let her leave the house, because she would go out with John Waters and just get herself into some hot water.
Gosh, I love it.
But what were they doing? How much fun were they having?
God.
I want to be there.
Stealing cars, doing speed.
Yeah.
Laughing.
What is it in Pecker when they go grocery shopping? Shopping for strangers?
So you know what?
Yes.
I work at a Trader Joe's and I sometimes see that. That sometimes every once in a while you'll see us shopping for strangers purchase in someone's cart.
They're like, this isn't mine.
The reaction of them I think is so funny. And I always think of that scene of Pecker.
My God, isn't that funny?
Yep. It can't be on purpose. I think it's just forgetful people just putting it in a cart.
I like to think it's real.
Yeah.
And I think they put it in a cart and they're like, that's not my cart. Oh, I can't reach my hand into it now. And they just walk away.
Shopping for strangers.
Oh.
Yeah. And stealing pocketbooks and all that. Yeah, all that fun stuff.
Well, and he keeps finding new ways of how can we be pranksters? That's why in his new book, it's let's steal luggage from an airport, and,
yes. And that's one of those things that's just part of society that when I'm standing in front of a baggage carousel, I'm just like, I could take any one of these,
right,
and
totally
walk away with it right now. You know, and it's that thing that everybody has that thought, and he's just like, wouldn't it be funny? And that's just such a great, funny, like, thing for these characters to do, because we all think about it. And it's just society. We don't go and grab it. Well, because everybody's standing around waiting. So if someone saw you, then
right. Also, the likelihood of it being like of something valuable,
anything,
than someone's clothes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but yeah, it's true. What else? What have we not talked about?
What else?
I think that kind of does it with all of
your notes.
All of my notes, at least. The dining room scene always gets me of when
the prayer
of when they're sitting down for this family dinner and
Lulu's flipping them off under the table.
Dexter Fishpaw putting that big mashed potato heap on his plate always gets me.
Oh, you know what we love too about like the decor and the house and the French Provincial and all that, and it's dinner time and they go to the table and there is the table set and there's a thing of mashed potatoes and all the food, and there on one side is a plate of just sliced white bread.
Yeah. That's something that my grandma would have done.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
My dad's family. Yeah, there's always just sliced white bread just sitting on the table.
Well, and they eat half a cake each for lunch. Yeah. That calls for a big lunch, and it's like they just split a cake in half.
And the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, Francine just has an entire cake in her fridge just to serve, because when ladies come over, you got to put something out.
Yeah,
why not cake?
Yeah,
a huge birthday cake, and then later, as the scene goes on, you see that it's cut right down the middle.
Yes, just
and the two of them are just
going at it.
I can't remember what Elmer says to her when she walks in the dining room.
I mean, he says a lot of
terrible things, but there's something that he says that always makes me laugh. I can't remember what it is.
Is it watch your words?
Yeah, I think it's
watch your words, Francine.
Watch your words. Yep.
I also love how we said, I don't think we've said Sandra's line. Maybe I've said it already when she goes, children would just get in the way of our erotic lifestyle.
Pete and I always say that whenever we're at the Eagle at like a beer bus on a Sunday afternoon. I'm just like, straight people can't do this shit.
100%.
All our friends with kids, they can't be spontaneous like us.
Yes. So good.
Children would just get in the way of our erotic lifestyle.
100%. Yeah.
Just calling Francine on the phone and just making like pig noise.
Oh my God.
So rotted.
Oh.
They're so evil.
Yes. Oh, but they get theirs.
I mean, yeah, they do. But what does Sandra see in Elmer?
Right?
His money?
Yeah, I think power.
Yeah,
dollar signs from that from that porno theater.
Power of
also, I love this is also connected to Annie. Mm-hmm. That generation of like evil rich people, like always in fur coats.
Yeah,
it's sort of like in Good Times. Remember Janet Jackson when she was on Good Times, Penny on Good Times. Mm-hmm. She's being abused. Her mom's like with an iron. Mm-hmm. So she gets rescued by the family, and then like a season later, her parents come back. And they're rich and they're evil. And then she's like in a purple fur or something. And she's like trying to steal Penny back away. But it's very much like what Bernadette Peters and Tim Curry do in Annie.
Sure.
Which is that of like evil rich people. They wear furs. They have like diamonds. And they're just like awful.
Yeah. And they're here to steal your child.
Yes. And that's so like early 80s. Just decadence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if for whatever circumstances I was abusing my child and Willona adopted them, I would not dare try to get that child back from Willona.
Absolutely,
that child is hers from now on.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I remember that like genuinely scared me when I watched that as a kid. Like how scary they were. Like I'm like, don't take Penny, Penny, no. You know, like
they're just gonna burn you with the iron again.
Oh, I know. Oh my God, that iron was so upsetting. The fact that was on a sitcom,
frightening. Yeah, and it was little Janet. Oh my goodness. Yeah, too much.
Yep.
Scott wasn't a big Good Times.
No,
he's too young. Though.
I'm a little too young.
Yeah, they weren't.
Well, I mean, I saw it on reruns. I'm sure.
We were too young.
Yeah, 70s, right?
Yeah, it was fully the 70s. Yeah,
so I saw it in the 80s.
And Janet was pretty little, right?
She because by the time she was on Different Strokes, she was a teenager.
Yeah, this would have been way
She
before
was dating
that.
Willis. Yeah, and when she was on Good Time, she was like a little 10-year-old. Yeah. Yeah, rich people in furs.
I love it. And they were always bad.
Yeah. And I mean, get out of town if they're in a fur and just lingerie underneath.
Oh, yeah.
And your odds are just out the window.
You know. No.
Yeah. Sandra is a great character in this movie.
Yes.
But
I got condoms, black ones.
what did she say about the hormones going?
Oh, yes.
Prophylactic hormones.
Prophylactics. That's it. Yes. Oh, my God.
It's stopping my ovulation through hormones. That kind of dialogue is like, what? Who? Oh, my goodness. John. It's just John.
Nobody else.
He's such a genius.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's making movies like this anymore.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. But I think, I don't know, listeners, if you can hear, Drew's ride is here.
My helicopter.
The helicopters have
I
arrived.
took a Blade.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know about Blade?
Blade.
It's like the Uber for helicopters.
Is that a thing?
Yes.
Can you go to just?
Oh my god!
Can you go to just opposite ends of the city on a helicopter?
Certain places, obviously, if you go to where there's like a landing.
Yeah, a
and
helipad.
it's pretty expensive, but you can get a. For me, you would have to pay me
Oh my god, I would never do
$1
that.
million to get in a.
Helicopters scare the shit out of me.
Yeah,
Same.
yeah. Oh
No
my
way.
goodness.
I couldn't possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, there's those loft buildings downtown that have like Remember, David's building had a helipad on the roof.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Just meet me up top. Mm-hmm. No, thank you.
Oof.
I'll just be late.
I'm not. I can't imagine how
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm bad enough in a plane. I don't need to be in a helicopter ever.
Drew, thank you so much for coming over.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for having
we went
me.
to Golden Girls Live the last run.
Oh, you
Alaska
did?
was
Yeah.
filling in as Rose.
Yes.
We still enjoyed it. It was really
Alaska was
fun.
wonderful as Rose.
Yeah.
Alaska was
I saw her
great.
do it.
Mhm.
Yes.
We sat next to Haley Joel Osment.
You did?
Yeah.
I
He
didn't
looked
know
over.
was there.
He looked over and he was like, Haley Joel Osment's sitting right
I was
there.
like, "There's Haley Joel Osment." Yeah, Alaska was great as Rose. Alec.
Oh, you saw Alec and
Alex
Sophia.
Ma.
Yeah.
Alex
Oh,
Ma
you
was
saw-
great.
'cause Alec was filled in because Sam was working that second weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a great time at Golden Girls, and we just found out we're going to be doing it in New York in June for Pride.
Exciting.
Great.
So I'm going back and do it with them there, but I think never say never, but
Sure.
I needed to step away. I love them, and all is good. There was no bad blood, of
Yeah.
course. It was 8 years that I did it.
Yeah.
and
Wow.
I had a great time, and I had to find something else. Now, in January, I sat on the couch twiddling my thumbs, being like, why did I not do this? And I'm so grateful that they got Alaska, and I'm so glad this thing keeps going.
Yeah.
Because I told them, I said, I very much do not want to break up the band.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to keep working with all of you. I just think I've done this for a while. And
Yeah.
because we're not doing anything really creative with it. You can't really.
Right.
We saw the one where you did the Ladies of the Evening. And
Yes.
we've seen a
That's
lot.
That's maybe the best episode
Well,
ever.
and I was going to say, we've seen a lot. I'm a Golden Girls super fan. That's my favorite episode. That one was really fun to watch just because it had the most balls up in the air, I think, as far as doing that in that setting.
In that format.
Yeah, well, we've
have
never
the
had
most-
a cast that big.
Yeah.
We always pick episodes. A lot of it is like functionality. Like
Sure. You got to do something that's
we have
probably
one guest star,
Housebound. Yeah.
housebound.
and that one
yeah.
had we had 10
Yeah.
people in that episode. So a lot of people, and we had a guest, Burt Reynolds.
Yes.
Do you remember who you saw as Burt Reynolds?
Yes, of
Chris
course.
Colfer.
We got Chris Colfer.
Chris Colfer.
Yeah. Mhm. That was a gag when
That
he
was
walked
a
out.
gag.
Yes. It was so sweet. Chris did that. We had a different Burt Reynolds every show, except for that day. That was a Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I remember we had 3 shows that day, and Chris Colfer did all 3 shows.
Oh,
I
okay.
love that.
That's
He's a
really
sweetheart.
cool.
I mean,
Yeah.
you got more.
Truly one of the greatest. We've gotten to be really close, and I just love him so much. He's such a dear,
Oh,
Yeah,
good
he was
person.
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So talented and so funny and generous on all across the board. He's
I mean,
great.
you got more enthusiasm out of Chris Pine for that show than the entire press tour of Don't Worry, Darling.
Oh my God, it was so crazy because Chris Pine came and did one of our Burt Reynolds like a week before he went to Venice with the Don't Worry, Darling
Okay.
thing. And
I love the side by side of the photo with you guys, and then a photo with him doing press.
Isn't that
and just a smile on his face with you guys?
Wild. He's another one that is like genuinely like the coolest, nicest, greatest guy. He was so on board. I guess I can say this. We weren't really sweat. He directed the reason we got him is because he wrote and directed and stars in a new movie called Pool Man that's coming out, in which we have a cameo as the Golden Girls in his movie.
Oh, I'd love that.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so he put us in his movie, and then when we were doing it, we were like, hey, we have a show coming up in August. Would you? And he was like, are you serious? Really? Can I come and do it? Like, he was so, he was our first yes. He was the first person to say yes.
That's awesome.
That we asked. And then he was like, we were like, take a pick. What show do you want to do? And so he came in and did it, but it's so nice when people like that are just cool and ready to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
I have my podcast is coming back. It's called Minor Revelations. And I bring on two guests who may or may not know each other. Some of my guests do and some don't. And I have them just talk about stuff they've never talked about before. I love doing like podcasts like this where I get to talk about Polyester and John Waters, because I feel like a lot people go on and they get asked the same questions and they do the same things. And I was just like, I was tired of saying the same things over and over again. I was like, anybody that's a fan of mine or friend or whoever like knows this already. So what's something you've never revealed? And so people are bringing out really interesting things. Sometimes they're really big. Sometimes they're really small little observations or, so it's coming back and it's really great. It's like, I mean, what I love about it is it's very conversational and it can feel a little Oprah. I wasn't expecting that, but it's like a lot of times people just really reveal really personal things.
Yeah.
I just did my first episode coming back, and one of our guests was like, I was an addict, and here was some crazy stories about as an addict, and somebody else was like, here's how I found out that Santa Claus isn't real. Those are the, and so it's just a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And so I'm very excited to bring that back.
Great. And do you have a premiere date for?
We don't have that yet, but it should be. We're hoping late spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we're getting the ball rolling for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
Awesome. All righty. Cool. Would you have anything else you want to plug or
not at all? Not that I can think of.
That's a good one though.
Yeah.
So everybody listen, watch out for that Minor Revelations.
Minor Revelations. Yes.
Love it.
It's coming soon to a podcast network near you.
Yeah.
Everybody. Well, yeah, thank you so much for being on.
Thank y'all
once
for
again.
having me, especially letting me talk about one of my favorite things to talk about.
We'll play you out with some Tab Hunter.
Oh, yes. I love it.
Yeah, but until next time, we'll have you on again soon.
Yes, please.
We'll pick another fun movie.
Yes, I love it.
And we'll do it again.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
And thank you so much for listening once again, everyone. Oh, what a great episode. We love John Waters, we love Polyester, and we love Drew Droege. Oh, my goodness. Well, we also love our listeners. Yes, thank you so much once again for listening. And I think it is about that time. Time for some Patreon shout-outs. We want to say a big thank you and hello to all of our wonderful patrons, including, we have two Dans, Dan C, Dan H, Whirlyflower Frog, Lori Brenna, Jessa Rabbit, Lawrence, Danielle, Lisa, Alexis, Thomas, Mark, Jackson, Millie, Ted, Benny, Jermel, Melanie, Susan, JJ, Shelby, Michael, Heather, Jamie, Drew, Genevieve, Dawn, Joshua, Emla Melly, Aaron, Jessica, Nick and Shannon, Christine, and Rufino. Thank you guys so much for being part of our Patreon team. If you are so interested, head over to patreon.com/movies that made us gay to check out all of our wonderful supplemental features. We, Scott and I, are working on a brand new Watch With Us commentary track that should be out very, very shortly. Maybe in time for this episode, maybe tomorrow, depending on when you're listening to this. The Watch With Us commentary tracks, Scott and myself watch a fun movie and we record ourselves commenting on the movie as we're watching it. So we give you instructions on how to sync it up with the movie. You can watch it, at home on your DVDs, your streaming platforms, what have you. Sync it up with our track, and it's like you're listening to our very own special commentary track. You can also just listen to it as a supplemental bonus episode. however you listen to podcasts. But it's really fun when you sync it up to the specific movie and our commentary matches up. I always love doing that. There are 20 plus. We're closing in on 25. I actually have to count. There's a lot of those bonus episodes. There's also newsletters. There are behind the scenes photos. There are seasonal playlists, lots of fun stuff over on Patreon, lots of different levels. And, if you don't want to do a monthly subscription, you can just do a one-time donation. And for 30 days, you'll have access to everything in that tier. All your donations go directly to keeping this podcast up and running. We are currently saving up for a brand new laptop because we need a new machine to edit all this stuff and get it out to you. And so all that's going directly towards that. So thank you very much. Keeping the show ad-free, keeping the show on those internet airwaves. So head over to patreon.com/moviesthatmadeusgay for more information. We'd also love it if you would like and subscribe. Go over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and hit 5 stars. Yeah, that helps us to kind of get the show spread out to more people. And, the more stars we have, the better rating we have. And any new comments or we will read on upcoming episodes. So I think we read the last 2 Apple Podcasts comments, and those were really great. Thank you so much once again for that. And we love anytime anybody has something great to say about us. So head over to those 2 platforms to smash the 5 stars and leave some great comments. You can follow us on socials. We are at Movies That Made Us Gay on Instagram. We also have a Facebook still, and we're still on Twitter. We're at MTMEG Pod on Twitter. You can follow our personal socials as well if you'd like. My name's Pete. I'm at Peter Lasagna on Instagram and Twitter, and you can follow Scott's socials. He's at Scott Youngballer on Instagram, and you can follow his Letterboxd. He is very active on Letterboxd, and all the movies that we see, can keep up with us there. So thank you so much, everybody. A great show. We will see you next week. Bye.